Hello everyone, hope you're all well. This is the first year I've officially done a video like this, and I hope that this will be the first of many to come. But before we begin, I'd like to thank everyone who has supported this channel thus far, and hopefully will continue to do so in the future. Now onto the video. The top 10 films I've chosen could very well be different from the ones you've chosen, and that's perfectly alright. What's important is our love for cinema. 2022 was a year to remember for movies. We had some beautiful indie films that graced our screens right next to high-octane, big-budget blockbusters that filled seats in cinemas all over the globe, as well as everything in between. Ranking the top 10 films of 2022 isn't as easy a task as one can imagine. 2022 in particular had some of the most diverse films ever. I was frankly amazed at how many films I wanted to watch as each month passed by. The sheer amount of quality really raised the bar as one of the best years for film in recent times. The criteria I will be going by to construct my rankings are filmmaking techniques, which constitute everything from the technical aspects of filmmaking, like the shots used, the editing, the colors, and of course the acting, directing, and writing. Secondly, I will also be looking at the overall emotional resonance of each film. Essentially, how these films impacted me emotionally as an audience member. Third and last is what I'd like to call post-movie longevity. This is basically to see whether or not a film stays with you for a long time after you've seen it. I believe this to be an essential hallmark of a great film. It highlights a film's ability to imprint itself into the psyche of its audience member. This might sound new, but if you really think about it, film was made to affect us in one way or another. So why shouldn't it be a factor when we choose our favorite films? Now, let's move on to our honorable mentions. The unbearable weight of massive talent. In this film, Nicolas Cage plays an exaggerated version of himself, co-starring opposite Pedro Pascal in what I think is one of the most ingenious films I've seen this year. The outstanding performances from both leading men wrapped up beautifully in a well-written, hilariously wide-ranging story is really the main reason this film works so well. Personally, this film and Pig from last year have been redefining choices for Nicolas Cage as he returns to the limelight in spectacular fashion. Elvis. Baz Luhrmann's Elvis is probably one of the most heart-thumping, eclectic, crazy films of the year. As an Elvis fan myself, I feel that this film was a great iteration of the many Elvis-inspired films over the years, and the frankly outstanding performances in the film, chiefly by Austin Butler as the King of Rock and Roll. The Outfit. The Outfit is basically the quintessential film noir style of filmmaking, but with a tightly written script that makes full use of its underrated cast's ability. The film stars Dylan O'Brien and Zoe Deutsch alongside Sir Mark Rylance in what I found to be a surprise gem this year. Kimi. Steven Soderbergh returns to the director's chair with his new film, starring Zoe Kravitz. This film is like a female taxi driver style film with the pandemic and its after effects on our social lives written into the story. It incorporates the fear of the outside world, which is an interesting angle that has rarely ever been put on the big screen. A beautifully told story with a well-written script and a standout performance by Zoe Kravitz. The Roundup. Starring Don Lee as a detective who goes overseas to bring back a criminal to Korea, but gets dragged into a much larger mystery than he ever bargained for. The charismatic, testosterone-fueled performance by Don Lee carries the film entirely on its own axis. It's a great movie to watch with friends and family, but one that isn't afraid of some darker tones as well. Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. Rian Johnson continues the adventures of Benoit Blanc in an almost equal level of surprise and intrigue with this sequel to the much acclaimed Knives Out. I love this film, and as far as rewatchability goes, this film is number one in my books. It is a very thematically connected film and an amazing watch that will leave you in stitches. Now on to my top 10 films of 2022. Number 10. Number 10 is a film that I didn't exactly expect to have on my top 10 list, but I simply couldn't have ignored how well made this film was. Prey, starring Amber Midthunder, is the greatest Predator movie I have seen in the entire filmography. It is a wonderful addition to the Predator universe, and I have to say that this film is absolutely the most well thought out, brilliantly executed Predator film as well. And I'm saying this as a fan of the films. This you should absolutely check out. The cinematography in this film is a particular standout point for me, as I never thought I'd be admiring the cinematography of a Predator film. Number 9. At number 9 we have a film that I've seen twice recently, and I've come to realize how great films with seemingly minimal plot development are. Aftersun, starring Paul Mescal and Frankie Corio as a father-daughter duo on a holiday in a Turkish resort. It makes for an emotionally melancholic watch, but also has plot points that make the viewer think and feel with no real hand-holding story-wise, which is the kind of storytelling that really impresses and inspires me. Charlotte Wells has made a truly transcendent yet personal film that reaches out with both arms. A surprise gem, no doubt, but one that I think that is definitely worthy of a top 10 spot on my list. Number 8. The 8th film on this list is most definitely the most visually stunning film of the lot. 13 years in the making, James Cameron brings us Avatar, The Way of Water. Cinema is a spectacle, and this film undoubtedly has that in spades. The beauty of the cinematography with the obvious strides in visual effects technology and motion capture make this film more than just a technological achievement, but a landmark in the cinematic landscape. One of the great achievements made by Avatar is that they pull the actors away from the film in the sense that you forget for a moment that actors like Kate Winslet is in this film alongside an actor of Sigourney Weaver's caliber, which helps it to become a really immersive experience to watch. Though it has an overly simplistic story, I felt it could have benefited from a tad more complexity. But The Way of Water is still an undoubtedly great film and definitely one of the best films of the year. Number 7. At number 7 is one movie that I couldn't help but watch again and again. After Yang, directed by Kogonada, is quite a beautiful film about grief and processing it through memories. It's yet another wonderful performance from Colin Farrell, who is having a year to remember with all his amazing work in 2022. Malia Emma, who plays his daughter in this film, steals the show with her beautifully nuanced performance that makes it feel like she's been acting for 30 years. Personally, I would love the chance to read the script and break it down for myself to learn how Kogonada constructs such lasting narratives in his films. After Yang also has a beautifully composed and controlled feel about it, making it one of my favorites of the year. A tremendous film that I definitely recommend. Number 6. Number 6 is a film that illustrates the idea of art and the life of an artist in an interesting and expository way. Tar, directed by Todd Fields, starring Cate Blanchett as Lydia Tar, a conductor living in Berlin. The deepness with which Cate Blanchett delves into her character shows in her transcendental performance in this film. This film has a quiet balance to it that is so musically governed in some areas that it does an amazing job of reflecting the film's subject matter. It also raised an important and intriguing question, which is, should people relate an artist as a person with their art? It also tackles the repercussions of abuse of power from a female perspective, which is quite rare to say the least, to be done for the big screen. Tar is a great film that is deeply moving and affecting in its own right, but just didn't do enough to make my top 5 in my humble opinion. Feel free to comment if you think it should have, because I myself am a tad undecided on this and would love to hear from you guys in the comments. Number 5. At number 5 is one movie that I am more than happy to have on my list as a filmmaker. Cha Cha Real Smooth, starring, directed, and written by the then 24-year-old Cooper Raiff. His age aside, this slice-of-life film has a beautiful tone and feel that is infectious when you watch it. A coming-of-age story that is written with such finesse, it's hard to believe that such a young filmmaker is starring alongside Dakota Johnson as a party MC at a bar mitzvah where he meets a young girl with autism and her mother played by Dakota Johnson. This film is an absolute treat to watch and such an inspiration for young filmmakers like myself and many others watching. Number 4. Number 4 is perhaps one of the darkest, saddest, and yet funniest films of the year. The Banshees of Inisherin was written and directed by Martin McDonagh, a beautiful yet sad film starring Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell. The trio reunite once again, ever since their undoubtedly amazing collaboration in Bruges was such a success. This sad and somewhat morbid tale of a friendship that's falling apart is definitely a taboo topic and one that is set on the fictional island of Inisherin, which really helps to bring together the loneliness and the disconnected feeling of being without your best friend. A truly fantastic watch worthy of being on this list. Now we go into the top 3 films I've chosen. Number 3. These 3 films, to me, stand out in a crowd so deserving of the same accolades they have. In an extremely competitive year, this film is perhaps what I would regard as the blockbuster of the year. Top Gun Maverick. To even attempt to summarize this film is still doing it an injustice. The way this film was made by having actors that essentially become pilots themselves, and the cinematography alone are enough to have this film on the list. Tom Cruise is one of, if not the last true action star left in the business, and proves that time and time again. The music for this film was amazing. Kudos to Lady Gaga, Hans Zimmer, and the team for creating such a resonant score. Though the film is definitely a story of military propaganda, it still resonates emotionally with its audience. Joseph Kosinski directed this film with such a deft touch that you have to admire it. It's a beautiful piece of cinema in 2022. Number 2. My number 2 pick is, of course, The Batman. Matt Reeves has brought perhaps one of the most faithful iterations of the Caped Crusader to the big screen. The unequal writing from Greg Fraser and team is astounding. The performances from Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, and company really brought the world of Gotham alive. This film shows us that we haven't seen all that Batman has to offer as a character, and to call this film immersive would be a massive understatement. The new direction with the Riddler, and of course the Joker, is one that I'm here to see. Colin Farrell once again brings his best as Oswald Cobblepot in one of, or dare I say, the most faithful portrayal of the Penguin there is out there. This is definitely the best comic book film of the year, without a doubt. Number 1. We have arrived at the number 1 spot. This film better win awards because it really deserves them, and more importantly, it would be one of the greatest stories ever told in movie making. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is my number 1 pick for 2022. The complexity in the writing that allows the audience to understand the concept of the multiverse in such a simple way is truly the art behind this film. The main character would not have had such a transformative effect on all of us if it weren't for the outstanding performance of Michelle Yeoh. This film, in my humble opinion, is the best of 2022. Ke Huy Quan also puts in a brilliant performance in his supporting acting role along with Jamie Lee Curtis, and directed by the Daniels with A24 backing them. I think this is definitely truly what the power of cinema is all about. There have been many films in 2022, and it's nearly impossible to have seen all of them. Here are some that I most definitely intend to see, but know that I am making my list without having seen these films. Memoria, Decision to Leave, Babylon, The Whale, RRR. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do comment your favorite films down below, and I will see you in the next one.